setup for my calorimetry lab. Notice I have 2 styrofoam cups stacked on top of each other. I've got this hot plate. Now this hot plate, the important thing to note, the hot plates that work are the ones that have the stir option, because that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be stirring, okay? And then I have this ring here in order to make sure that my styrofoam cups don't actually fall. Now this isn't a perfect calorimeter because heat is still going to be able to escape from the top. And so that's the source of error that you can note, because the heat of solution that you calculate is going to be actually a little bit lower than it should be, simply because you're going to be losing some heat as your solid is dissolving in the water. The first step that I need to do is I need to take the 100 mils of water and I need to pour it into my calorimeter. Okay, and I need to measure the temperature of my water, so I'm going to use a thermometer, make sure it's on degrees Celsius and not on Fahrenheit, because you have that option. And I'm going to measure my initial temperature. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the thermometer and I'm going to set my stir rod into my calorimeter. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to turn on my stir. I'm going to turn it to low at first to allow it to get started. This is just to prevent you from actually having to physically stir it with a stirring rod yourself. So let me show you what this looks like. Okay, so you've got it spinning like that. If you want to turn up the spin, you can. Okay, so it should look like that. So that now when I add my solid, I don't actually have to stir anything, and I can simply take my thermometer and measure the temperature and wait until it reaches the highest point or the lowest point that it's going to reach and record that as my final temperature. So if you see that the temperature of your water is decreasing, wait until it reaches the absolute lowest temperature and then record that. If you notice that your temperature is increasing, wait until it reaches the absolute highest point and then you can record that temperature. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take, I already measured my solid, my 5 grams of my solid, okay, and so I'm going to add that, and then as soon as I add it, it's going to start mixing in the solution. This is my magnesium sulfate. This is the first one that you guys are going to do, okay? So I'm going to add it, okay? And notice the stir rod is doing all of the work for me. So what I can do is I can simply measure the temperature and measure the temperature change and decide whether it's increasing or decreasing. I'm not going to tell you because that would ruin it for you. Okay? So this is all you're going to do, this process. You're going to do this for all of the unknowns that are assigned. Now, if your stir rod starts to act like this, where it's kind of going a little bit wonky, you can turn it down and then you can have it start up again. Okay? And so just measure it until it reaches the highest point, highest temperature, or the lowest temperature. And that's all there is to this lab.